Imagine living a normal, everyday teenage life in America, attending high school, worrying about college applications, hanging out with friends, and suddenly discovering a life-altering secret. Well, that is exactly what happened to Carla Brizuela-Perez when she discovered that her estranged father was not just a random ordinary man, but actually a billionaire king in Malaysia. What is her story? And how did she come to this shocking realization? Grab your popcorn and a comfy seat as we uncover every piece of info that you need to know. A story that begins with a Malaysian king and a young nurse and ends with an illegitimate daughter is not your regular fairy tale love affair. Carla Brizuela-Perez was 14 years old when she found out about her royal origin. Growing up alone with her mother, she had always been curious about her father's identity. She was 5 years old when she heard her mother mention her father for the first time. Her kindergarten teacher asked the class to bring their parents to school, a piece of news she broke to her mother with excitement, thinking she finally had a chance to see her father. "Oh, your dad, he can't come. He's busy because he's a king," her mom responded nonchalantly. To a 5-year-old child who had yet to grasp most rules of common sense, reality was tender and malleable. Hearing that the reason your father would not be available for a school gathering was because he's a king would definitely get rid of any fit or tantrum the child would throw. One would think Carla's mother probably said this to her daughter to get her to stop asking about her father. Unknown to Carla at the moment, the response that sounded like a line stolen from a bedtime fairy tale story was actually the truth. One night in 1996, when Carla was 14 years old, she got a call that changed her entire life. On the other end of the call was a man named Dato' Michael, telling Carla that her father, the Sultan of Pahang, Malaysia, wanted to meet her. At that moment, Carla could not believe her ears as she thought, "So my father is alive, and he really is a king." Her emotions were all over the place. When she learned that Dato was a title commonly used in Brunei and Malaysia, the reality kicked in that she might really be a Malaysian princess. And her mom had probably been telling her the truth the whole time. Apparently, Dato Michael was a lawyer who represented her father. A couple of weeks after the life-changing phone call, Carla set out to London to meet her father for the first time. After seeing The Princess Diaries for the first time, Carla identified so much with Anne Hathaway's character because it was similar to her life story. Not in the symbolic coming-of-age sense, but in a literal, relatable sense. Carla Brizuela-Perez was so eager to meet her father, whom she had never met before, and the fact that he is a king added to the enthusiasm. Before you know it, she was in London, anticipating the biggest moment of her life. Carla met her father over lunch at a hotel restaurant. As one would expect of a commoner who grew up in the slums, the meeting was unlike anything Carla expected. She was seated at a fancy restaurant table with her father, her mother, and Dato Michael, while the rest of her father's entourage were sitting at another table. Still, to her, the frigid meeting felt more like a business meeting rather than a reunion with a long-lost daughter. Seeing her father for the first time, a man in his 60s, older than Carla imagined, but what struck her the most were the uncanny similarities they shared. Beyond facial features, they also shared certain traits. The king was playful and sometimes sarcastic with his entourage, a unique trait Carla had exhibited over the years. It is somewhat surprising how Carla had inherited certain traits from a father whom she had never met. At the meeting, Carla was getting intimidated by the grand gesture rather than getting to know more about her father and asking why he had been away for so long. However, her father, on the other hand, tried to make small talk, asking about her interests and what she wanted to do when she got older. Over the next few years, Carla met her father 2 more times, which she was excited about, but the only downside was that the rigid business-like setups persisted. They would only meet with formal pecks on both cheeks, and her father, who was intentional about getting to know his daughter, did not spare a second before asking about her well-being. He would ask about her interests, school life, and college. Sometimes, he would go as far as asking her to check out certain interesting places in London, or even go shopping. It was pretty obvious that he wanted to be a part of her life. However, what truly delighted Carla from all her father's generous gestures was an unexpected remark that she looked like his eldest daughter. Hearing this, she was reassured that the king truly saw her as his family, and was also delighted to find out she had a sister. Every time their meeting was coming to an end, they would say to each other, "Oh, when can we see each other again?" A statement Carla makes to reassure herself that she will see her father again. But the king was always careful not to make any promises he would not keep, or mention definitive dates he might not be able to keep up with. Therefore, every time Carla and her father departed from their meeting, she always wondered if it would be their last. Carla looked forward to seeing her father every time they set up a meeting. She enjoyed getting to know her somewhat distant father, and delighted very much in his company. But unknown to her, their third meeting would be the last time she set eyes on her father. She tried reaching out to him after a while, but without direct access to her father, she fell back to the only point of contact she found accessible, Dato Michael, her father's lawyer. On several occasions, Carla would send emails to Dato Michael, asking about when her father would be coming back to London. Since her father owned an apartment in the city, regular trips down to London were not unusual. However, most of the mail was met with radio silence. Desperate to meet her father, Carla informed Dato Michael about her plans to swing by Malaysia to see her father every time she visited her family in the Philippines. But the lawyer would not hesitate to say that her father was in London or on a business trip. In 2009, Carla visited Kuantan, the state capital of Pahang, Malaysia, where her father was the sultan, and made attempts to meet up with him. She wrote a letter and went down to the palace to drop it off. Being aware of the fact that she was an illegitimate child of the sultan, getting inside was not an option. However, she passed the letter to one of the guards in the palace, who accepted it with little curiosity. Most likely, the guard thought it was just a fan mail for the king. Carla had a reality check that day at the palace that she would never get to the man she calls her father. As it turned out, the third meeting Carla had with her father in 2003 happened to be their last meeting. The sad news of the king's death soon surfaced online. Carla found out from a message her friend sent to her social media. Not believing what she saw, she looked her father up online and came across a news article that confirmed his death. Faced with the truth, she found herself in a loop of emotions. You know, it is an odd feeling, grieving over a parent you didn't really know. Of course, Carla was sad that her father had passed away before she had the opportunity to know him well. He might not be the ideal father figure for her, but he played a huge role in Carla's growth, despite the little time they had together. Whenever her father was away, a small part of Carla was hopeful that he might reach out one day to check up on her. But death made it certain that he was never going to reach out again. Beyond the loss of an elusive father, Carla was more devastated because death had taken away all the possibilities of getting to know her father better. For a princess who was unaware of her royal origin, you might be curious about her livelihood before the sudden change in her social status. Well, like many teenagers, Carla worried about college tuition, financial aid, and scholarships. She had dreams of attending a prestigious university, but like many average American families, affording it was a challenge. Carla and her mother migrated to the United States from the Philippines when she was 6. Because of their financial state, they moved around different rented rooms in California, but never had their own apartment. Carla's mother worked as many shifts as she could to provide for her, and she always reassured her daughter that they would figure things out, even though the stress of financial uncertainty was a constant presence. As she grew older, she came to understand that money was not abundant in the house. In middle school, when Levi's jeans were the talk of the town, Carla's dream was to own a pair as she thought they were cool and American. Perhaps owning one would make her blend in better with the foreign environment. But given her mother's financial prowess, it was far from affordable. Therefore, when her friends go shopping to refresh their wardrobes for the new school year, she scoured for knockoff brands with her mom. Although they didn't have much, they were happy and content with whatever they could afford to own. She might not own the popular Levi's jeans or the hottest sneakers, but at least she always had clothes and shoes to wear. Casting her mind back to how her mother always told her that her father was a king, her living conditions were far from princess-worthy. This is not how a princess should live, she would occasionally think to herself. But even with her doubts, she refrained from poking holes into her mother's story. This story isn't really uncommon among royalty, and like most royal families, before their official coronation, they have been with several people, resulting in children whose existence must be kept far away from the public. Carla's case was no different. Her father and mother met when they were much younger and had a whirlwind romance. But as soon as Carla was born, her father had to pull back because of certain cultural expectations and the responsibilities he had to his people. Her mother kept the truth from her because she did not want her daughter to grow up with royal expectations. Although she would often tell her that her father was a king, she never really said it with a serious tone. The reality came as a shock to Carla, as she began to struggle with her identity, wondering who she really was. Carla's story began with a Malaysian king falling in love with a young nurse, resulting in an illegitimate daughter. While this is not your regular fairy tale story, it is one that captured the hearts of many. One minute, Carla was an ordinary teenager struggling to get by, and the next, she was being told that she was the daughter of a billionaire king. What do you think of Carla's story? Do you feel sad she lost her father so soon after knowing his identity? Drop your comments below and let us know what you think of the illegitimate Malaysian princess.